Hi, I'm going to be doing my informative speech about skateboarding. I myself have actively been a skateboarder for going on 17 years now, so I'm relatively well versed on the topic, I guess you could say. But we'll start with some of the history, like where did it start, because I feel like a lot of people don't really have that information. It's really agreed upon that it started in the 40s or 50s in either California or Hawaii. There's kind of some gray area there. They know that it started wherever the surf culture was, and that was, the big areas for that at the time. They called it concrete surfing, and they would do it when there were low swells in the waves, so it wasn't ideal surfing conditions, and it was just, something for them to do to pass the time on their days that they would normally be surfing but can't. The first thing that they did was they took smaller surfboards and they attached, well, hold on, let me get my visual aid. So here's my skateboard. Pretend this is a tiny surfboard, okay? And they just took metal wheels and they did not put bearings, which I'm gonna try and show you. I don't know if you can see that. There's a little red circle inside that wheel, and that allows the wheel to spin more freely without damaging the trucks, which trucks are these metal things that hold the wheels on. But in 1959, the company Roller Derby, they were a toy company. They invented the first commercial skateboards, and they were a little better engineered than the ones that the surfers kind of just, threw together, as would be expected. Excuse me. Okay, sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. But in the 1960s, they took boards and they put a kicktail on them, which, visual aid again. This is the kicktail. You see how the board is flat for the most part in the middle here, and then on the ends it goes up, and this allows you to, what you do is push the board down like this, and it allows you to get it off the ground. That's called an ollie. That's the basic trick of skateboarding. But that was huge because they had competitions up before that point, but it was mostly just, people riding around on flat areas seeing who could do that the best. And this kind of vamped that up into something that people really wanted to watch because it was exciting. You never knew what somebody was going to do. They weren't just going to go from point A to point B. They added a lot more in between. How do you do it? How do you get from that point to that point? But then in the 1970s, there's a guy named Rodney Mullen who's widely considered to be the godfather of skateboarding. He took that ollie trick that I showed you earlier, where it jumps, and he invented what was called the kickflip, which, back to the visual aid, kickflip is you pop this board, and it spins horizontally towards you, and then you land back on it and continue riding. That was huge, because obviously, that is a lot more exciting than just watching people ride around, or even more so than watching people just jump up and down on ramps. The one that everyone seems to know about, Tony Hawk, obviously, he had a really popular video game series in the 90s, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and that kind of brought skateboarding into the limelight, which was cool because it had dwindled a little bit from the 70s. That nobody really knows why, but there were less skateboarders in that time. But this was huge. It injected a whole new just boost of culture into the sport. And it brought in a lot of people that probably otherwise wouldn't have heard of it or wouldn't have wanted to participate in it. I honestly say that I would be one of those. There's a lot of money in skateboarding too. It's not just some little counterculture that hides off in a corner. It brings in about $4.8 billion internationally on an annual basis, which to me seems like a lot of money. I'm sure to a lot of us seems like a lot of money, but I guess in the grand scheme of things, that's not huge. But these costs, let's bring out the visual aid one more time. A lot of these costs are the parts of the board. This wood part on top is called the deck. Those can run you anywhere from $50 to $100, depending on the kind of wood. There's bamboo boards now that are a lot more expensive than these maple plies, which is what they used to, which it says, I say ply because if you look at the side here, there are layers in there. It's not just one solid piece of wood, and it gives it a lot more structural integrity. But then you've got the trucks, as I said earlier. They hold the wheels on there. They allow you to turn because when you lean, I don't know how I can illustrate this, but when you lean, okay, well, I can't really show you. You're just gonna have to trust me on this. But when you lean, these kind of bend towards the board and allow you to just kind of coast that direction. But then you got, obviously, the wheels, and as I showed earlier, the bearings. Those probably this little assembly right here, the truck's wheels and bearing together, is maybe like another $80. And then you've got specialized shoes because they have to be a lot more durable because you're rubbing against basically sandpaper all day. But there are a lot of costs. And that's not including the cost of going to things like indoor skate parks or going to watch a competition and things like that. And I really don't think that those things are factored in to the overall cost. But who am I to say? Well, I really hope that this has given you some information that you can take away from this that you didn't know before. And thank you for listening to my presentation.